Captain America Brave New World is the first of 9 MCU projects this year, and even though this has gone through tons of production controversy, I've always loved Sam Wilson, and I only want amazing for his Captain America. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was great. His arc and the final moments of the Infinity Saga also felt so well earned, and now we sit in a new world of Captain America in all of the political turmoil of our modern world, $180 million down, and honestly, this movie surprised the hell out of me. In the newest entry of the MCU, we follow Sam Wilson's Captain America in the middle of an international incident, coinciding with President Ross' global gang plots and trying to find the mastermind behind it all.
Which is why I want you, Captain America, to help me rebuild the Avengers.
Before we get into over 98% of you guys who watch these videos aren't yet subscribed, so if you don't want to miss out on more reviews, hit that button. But always getting more time, let's get right into it. For starters, I want to talk about the titular character, Captain America. This is a new Captain America, and the first time Sam Wilson is leading the mantle of Captain America in an actual film. Falcon and Winter Soldier, later retitled as Captain America and the Winter Soldier, was absolutely great in my opinion. It is 100% one of the better MCU TV shows, but it was also one of the first MCU TV shows, and it's been a while since that series has come out. I personally always found Sam Wilson and Captain and Steve Rogers as Captain America dynamic to be really interesting, and then you add in Bucky / the Winter Soldier storyline into all of that. It is very interesting, the political grounded side of the MCU that these core characters were taking over. Obviously add Black Widow, Nick Fury, Shield, Hydra, all of those things into that type of world. That's really what carried a lot of the grounded spots of phase 2 and 3 of the MCU. Going into this film, we really didn't have much grounded MCU to go off of. Thunderbolts is the next MCU movie after this, but Falcon and the Winter Soldier has really been the only grounded, more politically based series that we've gotten in, or at least project we've gotten in since the post-pandemic MCU. I think Sam Wilson as the lead is perfect. Our character that doesn't take the super soldier serum, but fights with that idea every single time that he's on the battlefield. One that is an insane mix of being the Falcon, but also Captain America. This is a different type of action and style than the Winter Soldier, but it also has that at its roots in a great way. You're gonna hear me compare Winter Soldier and Captain America Brave New World a lot, and that's not to be negative towards one film or the other, but they are inherently very similar movies with very similar ideas. But one thing I absolutely love about how Sam Wilson is treated in this film rather than Steve Rogers in Captain America Winter Soldier is that Sam Wilson isn't necessarily on the run here, which I think makes coordinating with President Thaddeus Ross and the entire governmental idea and political idea that this film has a lot more interesting. I think the political ideas work really well because of everything else that's so well balanced. One of my favorite aspects of this entire film are the core characters. We have Danny Ramirez as Torres, who's the new Falcon, Shira Haas as Sabra, Tim Blake Nelson as the leader, and Giancarlo Esposito as the leader of the Serpent Society. And I think all of these characters are interesting in their own ways. I will say they're not nearly as interesting as the old core Captain America group with Bucky Barnes, Natasha Romanoff, obviously Sam Wilson, and Steve Rogers. But it's also because those were basically the Avengers at the time, and these are fairly brand new characters that are being introduced into the MCU, whether they're just used for this film or will be used in future installments. I won't get into that. But every new character or reoccurring character in this film is used to their best of their ability, and I don't think any one is just shoehorned in. If you guys didn't know, Giancarlo Esposito's character was actually added in reshoots, but does feel like a worthy inclusion in the film. It's not just because it's Giancarlo Esposito, but the story and the idea of the Serpent Society actually makes sense here. So again, it's not that these characters are amazing like our last Captain America core cast, but they still do the job very well. And this is where I want to get into the political ideas that this film does tackle. Obviously, with a Captain America that doesn't take the super soldier serum, and Sam Wilson obviously mentions this a lot throughout the entirety of this film and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he has to do more than what is expected of him just to be enough as this guy that carries the mantle of the shield. I think that idea also parallel with the fact that Thaddeus Ross becomes Red Hulk and all of this, I guess, underground political backroom stuff going on. I'm trying to juggle around spoilers. It's kind of like Winter Soldier, but instead of the Hydra stuff, they're uncovering a different aspect of the government. And I think that is a really interesting turn to take. And the story works. The political thriller works. It is interesting. You do feel like, at least I felt this yearning for what is going to happen. Not necessarily the threat facing Captain America himself, but facing this treaty that the governments are working on. And the threat does feel real enough. I think what more so happens to the characters around Captain America is the stakes rather than the overall like world-ending threat action fight thing being the stakes. But that works because I think Sam Wilson is just honestly in 2 projects has way more depth than Steve Rogers ever had as Captain America on a character level. But that's also because Steve Rogers was really introduced as the Captain America that leads the Avengers to an extent. In terms of the action itself, I think this is very similar to what old Captain America movies do, just on what the shield itself is doing. But from the opening fight sequence, you can tell that all of the gear that Sam Wilson has is going to be used in a new and unique way. I think some of the CGI at times can be a little bit shoddy in terms of what's going on, and I guess this prelude to the final battle moment. But other than that, a lot of the action does work. It's brutal, it's exhilarating, it's exciting. And I think even though Sam Wilson doesn't have the super soldier serum, which is another thematic thing that he does struggle with as he does in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all of it is made up for by the technology. And that really shows how, I guess, how grounded Sam is as a character rather than just being a big super soldier that can plow through everyone in his way. And the final big thing I want to really talk about is just how this movie has so much great visual flair. I noticed this in the first trailer, actually, and I kind of thought it was just a trailer thing that they were doing to make it look good when it was cut together super quickly. And honest to God, the first 2 trailers for this film are absolutely amazing in my opinion, but it does look like it is more filmic, a little bit more grainy, and that doesn't necessarily work in the big final battle action sequence because there is a lot of shoddy, more so green screen CGI that I wasn't the biggest fan of. But for the most part, since this film is so grounded and since it does feel so much like the early Captain America movies and moments in general, I think a lot of this visual flair is super, super cool. It's not to say that this is something absolutely amazing, but there is some art style to it. There is something that they were going for in terms of a tangible feel of what they wanted this spy thriller to feel like. And on that note, overall, this film is edited so well. The first 20-30 minutes flows really, really well with a lot of different music cues and just general big action set pieces and sound design and stuff like that. And I didn't really think they were going to keep that up the entire movie, but all of the dialogue scenes are shot really, really well. Every single character moment is exemplified, whether it's through sound design, score, the soundtrack. Everything works for this movie to keep flowing. And again, it does give it a little bit more flair, and it does feel like they're actually going for something a little bit different here on a visual level. This movie is also a lot more brutal than other MCU movies. It's definitely more brutal than the early Captain America movies, but also it's just we're in a different era of the MCU, so it's trying to do something completely different. At the end of the day, I enjoyed Captain America Brave New World so much more than I expected. Obviously, going in, I knew we were going to get some sort of political thriller, but I didn't expect this story and this many characters to work together so well. I would 100% recommend checking this out because it feels like a great throwback to phases 2 and 3 of the MCU. Overall, I'm going to give Brave New World an 8 out of 10. If you've seen or want to check out Captain America Brave New World, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.